So it's emptying out here at the Groupama Stadium because we've just had a bit of a thriller. Lyon 3, Eintracht Frankfurt 2. Sounds way closer than it actually was. Lyon head and shoulders above. Late goal from Omar Mamouche, giving Eintracht a bit of hope, though they hardly put Lyon under siege after that. But I guess the way it closed out brings me to what I really want to talk about in this video, because Lyon played excellently tonight. They chose their first team, pretty much all the players that they would go into any big match with, and they've rotated quite a lot in the Europa League, but not for this one because it's one that they really wanted to win against a direct rival to finish in the top 8, and it paid off. It was a very fluent performance and they got the win they needed. But really, squad management has been an issue for Lyon this season, and we've talked about a lot of things on the podcast on OTC about John Textor and how he's chosen to manage OL, and of course the fact that they've got an administrative relegation hanging over their head. What that actually means is they've got to regularise their financial situation. If they don't, they'll be relegated at the end of the season regardless of their sporting results. So a few financial chairs to be shifted, which is very much Textor's thing, obviously. All the blustering about the DNCG, that's the French Financial Control Board, don't understand the New York Stock Exchange. They don't understand the assets that we've got, all that sort of stuff. He needs to park that, as we've said on the podcast before, and just work out how to play to the rules as carefully as possible. Now, the fact that they won't be able to make transfers in January, I don't think that really matters that much. In fact, you could argue that the last thing Lyon need to do is make transfers in January, because they've got such an incredibly bloated squad at the moment. 28 first team professionals, and that is just impossible really to keep everyone fit and keep everyone in nick from there, let alone find out what your best first team actually is. So they're in a weird way, not in a totally dissimilar situation to Chelsea, who obviously set up a slightly different squad for the Europa Conference League. Now, the Lyon are in a higher competition, of course, and they don't have quite that same thing, but they do have a situation where they've got a lot of unhappy players all the time. Now, two of those, Wilfried Zaha and Gift Orban. Bear in mind, Zaha in the not that distant past was one of the very best players in the Premier League. Now, his personal situation, of course, is particular. You know, he's not really had a proper pre-season before the start of this season or the season before, and you've been able to tell that in his performances with Galatasaray last season, which were intermittent, and the way that he hasn't been able to get in the first team here at Lyon. But it's also due to the bloating of the squad, and you've got players of extraordinary quality who are left out of the 18 every single weekend, because 28 into 18 just doesn't really go. So it's something that really is another Textor created problem, actually, or at least partly due to the fact that the management team he appointed hasn't got it done. Now, because they didn't get the sales they wanted done last summer, that has led him to change again who's in charge. Mathieu Louis-Jean, who was formerly at Nottingham Forest, he's really got an overarching recruitment responsibility now. So they will seek to shift a few in January. Obviously, easier said than done when they're paid so much money. It's a problem that every big club has. But it should be a little bit easier for Lyon, because there are some of these guys who aren't getting a game and aren't getting a sniff of a game. So that should maybe make push come to shove. But when we're talking about Textor and the way that he manages the club, one of the reasons the DNCG, this really, really strict financial control board who decide whether teams can compete and what sort of financial and sporting restrictions might be on them, one of the reasons they don't trust him is because he said he would sell 100 million euros worth of Lyon players last summer, and he didn't. He sold around 40. Of course, there was that extraordinary story about Ernest Nuama, who's got a brilliant goal, by the way, here tonight, which turned out to be the winner, showing what enormous potential he's got, and maybe he's someone they could sell if they were to further develop him for quite a lot to a Premier League club in future. he backed out of a move at the last minute after getting pretty upset at the medical. It was a pretty unedifying situation, and basically doing a bunk and refusing to go and staying at Lyon, and hopefully that'll be for the best for him and for them. But they didn't manage to get those sales done, and that has partly led to that financial shortfall at the moment. It's also left Pierre Sage, the coach who's just celebrated a year here, who was Textor's personal pick. He was head of the academy, and after it went all terribly wrong with Laurent Blanc and even worse with Fabio Grosso last season, Sage was put in charge for a little bit, and then he got the job permanently because Lyon turned it around, did so well, got past a start which was 7 points from 14 games and ended up qualifying for the Europa League on the final day of the season, which is an extraordinary, unprecedented recovery. And Sage is great, a great communicator. The players love him. He started to develop a style of play beyond just getting games won this season. But he is having to manage those huge set of players on a sporting and a human level, which is something that he's managed to do okay, but it is tough, and it's something that no head coach should really have to put up with. The club have to help him out by slimming down the squad. Now, in the meantime, he's done a pretty decent job of that, and actually that Lyon had a big-ish squad, really suited them last season. If you look at how many games they came back, and when they were 3-1 down here against Brest and came back and won 1-4-3 with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's gone from strength to strength actually under Pierre Sage, him scoring the penalty winner in that, a few other games where they dug themselves out of incredible holes, a 4-3 win away at Lille as well. One of the reasons they were able to do that is because they had such bang off the bench, but it did feel at the time as if it was unsustainable, and it would be really hard to continue with that way, because the financial implications of it, keeping everyone happy, etc., and because they've brought in players and not managed to shift the ones they wanted, the squad has been even bigger. So really the fact that Lyon is staring down this financial barrel is something that could really help them get this squad in trim, because it's been an uneasy balance in the first part of this season. Then again, the team, the 11 that Pierre Sage picked tonight, as I said, is very clear that is the set of players that he really trusts and wants to go with for the very biggest games. So despite all the distraction, despite having to balance various states of mood and everything else, he has got a situation where he knows what his best team are, and they can play very fluently as well, as we saw tonight. But obviously one of those that they probably don't really want to sell is Ryan Cherky. He was fantastic again tonight, scored the opening goal with a really clever finish from Corentin Toliso's shot, which he sort of flipped over Kevin Trapp, and then he set up Malik Fofana's second goal. He's got such a brilliant relationship with the crowd. He understands what it is to be Lyonnais. He's a local guy, and it means a lot to play for the club, and I think it means a lot to him to be good at the moment, to really enjoy a spell where he's an important player for the team. So his value, especially with his contractual situation, he signed a new deal which saw him get back into the team at the start of the season. He's been great this season in a way that he's hinted at before but never quite got to. He's at the service of the team. He doesn't use his skills to do so much daft stuff like dribbling in the wrong areas, holding onto the ball too much, passing a bit casually, all that sort of stuff. He seems to have really grown out of that in the whole. Now, this means really that he could be one of Lyon's most saleable assets come to January. Maybe PSG will come back and have another go. Maybe Borussia Dortmund, who are very interested, will come back and have another go. Or maybe a club higher up in the Premier League, because propositions from Crystal Palace and Fulham didn't really float his boat last summer. So we'll see what happens. If they were to shift him for 25 million plus, you would feel that the club who got him would have a potential bargain. They would have some much needed money, and they've potentially got a ready-made replacement in Thiago Almada, the Argentinian World Cup winner, who's meant to be coming over from Botafogo, having just won Brazilian Serie A and of course the Copa Libertadores a couple of weeks ago, who's talking this week about how he expects still to come over in January, barring any administrative hiccups or whatever. But I'm just fascinated to see how Lyon can do for the rest of the season. You know, they've got to be one of the favourites for this Europa League. It's a very different Europa League this season, of course, because you don't have any Champions League flops falling out of it after the group stage. Everyone there knows exactly what the field is and exactly what they've got to compete with. They're one of the strongest teams in that. The question is, what sort of shape will they be in after the transfer window? And you know, there's the imperative to get money in. There's also a sporting imperative that, you know, how they're going to be sustainable is by qualifying for the Champions League again and again. So let's see how they get on. We'll be seeing them on match day 7 actually away at Fenerbahce. Yeah, they're going to face Jose as well, so there'll be a bit of video from that as well as some other bits. There'll be more video in the meantime, of course. A podcast is out on the continent every Thursday. Ask OTC, answering your questions every Friday. Like and subscribe, come on.